Discover the life and work of Harry Callahan, one of the most innovative photographers of the 20th century. Known for his masterful use of light, shadow, and composition, Callahan created striking images that explored urban landscapes, nature, and intimate portraits. Callahan had no formal training in photography and was a hobbyist until 1941, when he encountered the work of renowned landscape photographer Ansel Adams. Inspired by Adams's images, Callahan set out to develop his own photographic style. Throughout his career, Callahan focused on three primary subjects: landscapes, cityscapes, and unconventional portraits of his wife and daughter. These themes became central to his artistic exploration. Rather than aiming for literal representations, Callahan often emphasized abstract designs, producing quietly lyrical and thought-provoking compositions. In 1946, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy and Arthur Siegel invited Callahan to join the faculty of Chicago's Institute of Design. He later served as head of the photography department from 1949 to 1961. From 1961 to 1973, he continued shaping the field of photography by helping establish a photography department at the Rhode Island School of Design in Providence. By the late 1970s, Callahan began exploring the creative possibilities of color film. Although he did not print his color slides until 1978, his work quickly gained recognition. That same year, he became the first photographer chosen to represent the United States at the Venice Biennale. By 1980, Callahan was working almost exclusively in color. In 1976, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City honored him with a major retrospective exhibition, solidifying his place as a pioneer in modern photography. Learn how Callahan's experimental approach and dedication to his craft redefined photographic art. Join us as we celebrate his legacy and examine the timeless beauty of his work, which continues to inspire photographers and art enthusiasts around the world. My Book Through the Lens. Inspiring Quotes from Master Photographers is now available for purchase. This book is a captivating and inspiring collection of insights, reflections, and wisdom from some of the most renowned photographers in history. Get your copy now. The link to purchase it on Amazon is available below in the description box. Harry Callahan was born on October 22, 1912, in Detroit, Michigan, United States. His parents were farmers who moved to Detroit to find work in the auto industry. Callahan attended Michigan State College in East Lansing for 3 semesters, studying engineering. He left school in 1933 and took a job as a shipping clerk with Chrysler Parts Corporation. That same year, Callahan met his future wife, Eleanor Knapp. Callahan began taking pictures as a hobby. He joined the Chrysler Camera Club and later the Detroit Photo Guild. He had no formal training as a photographer, except for attending a few workshops. According to Callahan's own writings, he considered himself terrifically naive, which he viewed as his greatest strength. He believed he had fresh eyes because he lacked formal training. He wrote that photography was an adventure, much like life itself. When Ansel Adams gave a workshop in 1941 at the Detroit Photo Guild, Callahan was deeply impressed. Adams showed examples of his work and introduced members to the work of Alfred Stieglitz. Though Callahan admired all of Adams' work, he was particularly interested in his close-ups of plants and the ground. This experience marked a turning point in Callahan's life. He began to see himself as an artist with a camera. Shortly after this experience, Callahan left the Detroit Photo Guild, feeling that photography clubs were too limiting. Like Adams, Callahan began using a large view camera loaded with 8 by 10-inch negatives, which he could print by placing them directly on photosensitive paper and exposing them to light. Callahan met Alfred Stieglitz in 1942, but was initially reluctant to show the master photographer his work. On a later trip in 1946, however, Callahan brought his portfolio. According to Callahan, Stieglitz was stunned. After seeing Stieglitz's photographs of his wife, the painter Georgia O'Keeffe, Callahan began taking many intimate pictures of his wife, Eleanor, and their daughter, Barbara. One of his most admired portraits, Eleanor, Chicago, circa 1953, gained widespread acclaim. He also seemed to echo Stieglitz's cloud abstractions with a series of abstract water photographs. During this period, Callahan took some of his most enduring pictures, held his first exhibit, and saw his photographs displayed at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. By this time, Callahan had left his position with General Motors and needed a job to support his family. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy saw Callahan's portfolio and hired him to teach at the Institute of Design in Chicago, which became part of the Illinois Institute of Technology in 1949. Callahan taught there from 1946 to 1961, becoming head of the department in 1949. Callahan set up a darkroom and began producing black and white silver prints in his kitchen sink. His first prints sold for $5 each. The Institute of Design, modeled after the German Bauhaus school of the 1930s, was considered somewhat unorthodox. It was one of the few schools that treated photography as an academic discipline. Photographers there focused on personal themes, nature studies, and abstractions. The Bauhaus philosophy combined creative design with mass technology to bring art into everyday life. Callahan supported the idea that photography was as much machine-made as it was man-made. Callahan's subjects often came from everyday life. His early photographs were very small, often postcard-sized. Richard Lacayo suggested in a Time article that Callahan shared with the abstract expressionist painters a penchant for the sublime, but he worked toward it from a different direction. They preferred wall-size canvases, a match for the presumed immensities of the spiritual realm. He made pictures the size of an intuition. No examination of Callahan's work would be complete without discussing his photos of his wife, Eleanor. In 1984, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art hosted a retrospective exhibit of his photographs of Eleanor and Barbara. taken from 1940 to 1960. The 78 prints revealed the variety of techniques Callahan used during those years, including multiple exposures, silhouettes, high-key abstractions, and unmanipulated images. Eleanor, Chicago, 1949 shows Eleanor rising from the water in stark black and white. Callahan had not done much traveling before receiving a fellowship in 1958 to work in France. The subjects he photographed remained deeply personal. Many included his wife. When he returned to America after 15 months, he felt that he had outgrown Chicago and accepted a position as director of the photography department at the Rhode Island School of Design. The change of scene provided him with new inspiration. In the 1970s, Callahan produced his Cape Cod series featuring images of sea, sand, and beaches, which differed significantly from his earlier work. Toward the end of his career, Callahan began working more with color film, capturing scenes in Rhode Island as well as Morocco, Portugal, and Ireland. He also developed color negatives he had taken decades earlier. His color work was regarded as equally impressive as his black and white photography. Callahan's subjects continued to include his wife and daughter, as well as everyday surroundings. Callahan was married to Eleanor throughout his adult life and was deeply devoted to his family. He was one of the first photographers to earn a successful living in the profession and was considered an excellent teacher. At the time Callahan began teaching, the Institute of Design was one of only 2 schools offering degrees in photography. Many of Callahan's students went on to teach at universities across the United States, spreading his influence. When Callahan died of cancer at his home in Atlanta, Georgia, on March 15, 1999, he left behind an extensive body of work. The Callahan Archive, housed at the Center for Creative Photography in Tucson, Arizona, contains approximately 20,000 prints, 5,000 slides, and 100,000 negatives. Harry Callahan's journey as a photographer serves as a profound reminder that mastery comes through practice and perseverance. His story is not one of instant recognition, but of quiet dedication, endless curiosity, and an unwavering commitment to his craft. Callahan discovered photography at the age of 26, an age when many believe paths are already set. Yet, in less than a decade, he transformed his passion into a lifelong pursuit, one that continued evolving over 60 years. His approach was exploratory rather than linear. He would select a subject, explore it intensely, step away, and later return with a renewed perspective. This cycle of experimentation became the cornerstone of his artistry. Without formal education in photography, Callahan relied on self-teaching and hands-on experience. Early in his career, a lecture by Ansel Adams ignited his artistic vision. Adams encouraged photographers to embrace the unique qualities of the medium, emphasizing clarity, detail, and simplicity. Inspired by this, Callahan began viewing photography as an art form in its own right, one that didn't need to imitate painting but could stand on its own. Callahan's work combined Adams' emphasis on purity with the experimental techniques of his second mentor, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. As a teacher at the Institute of Design in Chicago, Callahan refined his skills and inspired others, encouraging formal experimentation and pushing the boundaries of photographic expression. He played with contrasts, double exposures, and abstract compositions, always seeking new ways to interpret the world around him. His subjects range from nature's intricate patterns to the bustling life of city streets. He was particularly drawn to moments of quiet introspection, capturing faces lost in thought and frozen in time. Yet, among all his subjects, none were as intimate or enduring as his wife, Eleanor. Over 15 years, Callahan photographed her in various settings, indoors and outdoors, clothed and nude. These images, deeply personal yet universally resonant, reflect trust, love, and vulnerability. They stand as timeless tributes to human connection and emotional honesty. Callahan's ability to see beauty in the ordinary was transformative. A patch of snow, a ripple in the water, or a fleeting glance from a passerby became profound statements under his lens. His work reminds us that art is not about perfection, but about perspective, how we choose to see the world and capture its essence. Despite his achievements, Callahan remained humble, grounded in the belief that growth as an artist comes through doing. He famously said, "To be a photographer, one must photograph. No amount of book learning, no checklist of seminars attended can substitute for the simple act of making pictures. Experience is the best teacher of all. And for that, there are no guarantees that one will become an artist. Only the journey matters." His legacy is not only in the images he left behind, but also in the inspiration he continues to provide. He challenges us to embrace curiosity, to experiment without fear of failure, and to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Whether through a lens or in life, Callahan's story encourages us to keep looking, keep learning, and keep creating. In the end, Harry Callahan's work is a testament to the power of patience and passion. It reminds us that art is not born out of certainty, but from exploration. And perhaps, more importantly, it teaches us that the most profound creations often arise not from grand gestures, but from the quiet persistence of daily practice.